Hello everyone, my name is Emma Laura and I recently became a demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I wanted to create this YouTube channel to start documenting my scrapbook layouts, and I hope that I can inspire other people to start scrapbooking, or if you've already been scrapbooking for a while, just to show maybe some other ideas to document your layouts. Today I'm going to document an 8.5 by 11 scrapbook layout, so that's smaller than your traditional 12 by 12 scrapbook layouts, and I kind of like using these occasionally just to document one-off events or maybe just pictures of my pets, which sometimes I don't want to kind of pull out the full 12 by 12 paper layouts just because it takes a little bit more work, or you kind of just need more to fill up a page. And 8.5 by 11 is also really nice to just document that one picture. So I can show you a couple of examples of how that looks like. I'll scooch this to the side. This, for example, was a layout using the paper pumpkin card kits from Stampin' Up. You can pay $25 a month and you get these beautiful card kits in the mail that actually includes everything you would need. It has stamps, it has paper, envelopes, etc. And I like to kind of use those papers in scrapbook layouts just to have more functionality for them. And as you can see here, I broke up some of the papers and split these into 4 parts, and then I used the corresponding stamps that come with the set to create this beautiful embossing pattern on this paper, as well as I used some other Close to My Heart, which is a retired, they closed their doors last year, so these are some stencils that I used to kind of fill up the page. So that's one layout I created. Another one, this is using some retired Close to My Heart paper. Again, you know, these are more like one-off. I had some smaller pictures. I didn't think that a 12 by 12 layout would look necessarily nice, so I used a smaller layout like this. This is another paper pack from Stampin' Up, and I just created some circles with this and used some stamping to create more dimension. But this is using also 6 by 6 papers, which again, I feel like 6 by 6 papers on an 8.5 by 11 layout just feels, or I feel like it's easier to document or scrapbook with that just because the paper size is smaller, so it just fills up the page better. So for today, I wanted to document using the Botanical Textures paper, which is a new paper from Stampin' Up. It's part of their online exclusives, so I'll pull it up right here. I feel like this paper is very unique. It's very beautiful. It has white, gray, and black tones. And on the one side, you have botanical textures, so just sprigs, leaves. And then on the flip side, you have more of this like this stressed pink look. And the minute I saw all this paper, I thought this would look so beautiful with kind of more like a contrasting pop of color that could be pink, green, because I think it would look really great against this black. So I had this one-off picture left from a trip that we took to Charleston, and the minute I looked at this picture, I was like, this would look beautiful with that Botanical Textures paper because it's got those pops of green, and the picture almost looks a little bit like there's a filter applied to it, which there wasn't. But I think what I wanted to do is use the green that pops in the picture with the black of the paper. So what I had in mind is when I was kind of going through this paper, I did not want the very large print because I wanted it to be, if you use the larger print, I do feel like that works better on a 12 by 12 because it's easier to combine with other things without the page looking too busy. So I was kind of gravitating towards these smaller prints, and I definitely wanted to stay with this like very dark, moody colors. I think that just looks really cool. And what I wanted to do is create a more diagonal shape across the page. So I was thinking of having something that goes along the page and ripping it up so there's a little bit more texture to it. And then I wanted to combine it with one of the flip sides, which is more of that distressed color. So I definitely want to keep with this black tone, and I like the grayish undertones in this paper. So looking at the other side, I feel like this could definitely be an option, or let me see. What else do we have? I feel like this would all be too dark, that it's not enough of a contrasting, even though this isn't really contrast because it's in the same color scheme. I just wanted to have something a bit more neutral because I want to add some green sprigs to it. And with this being a sprig pattern, I want to create a level or a layer of paper that's more muted or neutral so that it just doesn't get too busy on the page. So I think I'm going to go with this paper. I think that looks really cool. And then what I'm going to do is, I know I want it to go across the paper diagonally. So I'm just going to line it up with my pencil. And I might just take my ruler and go across. This is just to guide me when I'm ripping up the paper. Where is the white? Here it is. I might have it a little bit shorter. So I think I'll do something like this. And I'm going to rip the paper so that because this does have a white core, I'm going to rip the paper so that there's like white core showing, that just to show that like distressed feel. And I'm going to do the same with the gray paper so there's a layer sticking out. Okay, I've gone ahead and ripped up those two pieces of paper. I did go ahead and do the black piece a little bit shorter so it doesn't come in the corners, because I want the lighter gray to actually meet corner to corner and then have this layer on top of it, because I want enough white paper so I can still add some embellishments and everything without it looking too busy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to erase these pencil marks I did for my line coming across. And when I was ripping the paper, I would sometimes kind of distress it a little bit more so there's more of that white popping out. This is of course just to your preference. If you don't like as much white popping up, you can definitely just rip it even using a ruler so it's even more of a neat line. I kind of like this look, especially with the type of paper. It creates just that level of intrigue with these two different papers overlapping. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut off a piece of this gray, because we don't, this is just to waste the paper that's behind here. So I'm just going to take my pencil and then draw some lines just so I know that I don't cut too much. Now let me take my cutter. So I want it coming across here. I just don't want too much because I can definitely use this corner on another project. So I'll put this to the side. And then I'm going to lay this down just to make sure that that's measuring up correctly. Okay. I'm going to just already go ahead and stick this down. Okay. I want it really neatly going across. Might just move this up a little bit. I'm going to start down here because I feel like here I might have taken a little bit more off the corner. Let me see if I put that on top. That still looks fine. Don't like that there's like white poking out here. So I'm going to just lift this up and move this up just a tad. You won't really see that it doesn't meet the corner at the bottom. I think that works. Yep, and then I'm just going to put this black piece on top. And just line that up with the corner here. Drag that down, across. There we go. Just put a little bit more tape here. Okay, perfect. So that's going to be the base, and then the picture I want to just have right here in the center. And I was using or looking at a couple of die sets from Stampin' Up to incorporate into this page. I was looking at the textured timber as like an element, but I really like this set, which is called the Wild Ferns. And especially these corner elements, which when you cut them or die cut them out, it looks something like this. You could definitely just use the little sprigs individual and just cut these off. But what I was thinking is having these sprigs here at the bottom. I will still matte my photo in the same color, but this would just create that extra level of those sprigs coming across. And I don't feel like it's too busy with this background paper. So I have this coming here and here. And then the picture will be matted in that same, this is old olive cardstock from Stampin' Up. So I'll have the picture in the same cardstock with just a thin mat. And then I was looking through my die cuts and I found these, which is from the Season of Green and Gold collection from Stampin' Up. And I kind of like that this is in the vellum page, so not as busy or not as, I feel like it creates just like a very subtle level or detail here on the page. And then I got a couple of other ones I collected together. I also have these, which is using the punch from Stampin' Up. This is what it looks like, and I die cut out a couple of these, but I'm not sure that I really like that. I think that's maybe just a bit too much. You could also add this darker green. I might just like it simple with these and not add too much extra details. I do have a couple of these smaller fern pieces that I might add in. These are just, if you look on the die cut sheet, these are the individual die pieces. I might just add a couple of these in around the page just to add to the embellishment piece, but I'll see if I think that's necessary, because what I really wanted to add is, because now we have a lot of white in this bottom section of the page, which is fine because I want that contrasting element to it. But what I was thinking would look really nice is to introduce the elements of text stamped from close to my heart. And they have this beautiful round circle text stamp, which I think I want to stamp right here so the text is coming out of this embellishment cluster. And I wanted to do or stamp this in gray granite because it's a pretty light gray, but I'm thinking I'm going to do second generation stamping, so it's like very subtle and not too bright on the page. So what I will do is I will flip my Versamat around, because that way we use the soft spongy side, which is perfect for stamping. And then I might just see where I need to place this approximately to have the circle die or circle stamp, and then measure up where I need to stamp that down. I also went through my sets to see if there's anything else I want to add, because I might want to do a title of sorts with some dies just to have that extra pop of color. And I was thinking either to stay in the green theme of our embellishments, or maybe, because there's some blue in this picture too, to kind of use some of that blue. But I'll first go ahead and stamp the elements of text stamp right here, matte my picture, and have these embellishments stuck down. And then I'll come right back and see if we want to add a title or anything else. And then take our layout page. I've already gone ahead and matted the picture on some old olive cardstock, but I'm just kind of measuring it up to see where I want it to go. And I'm going to have my paper here ready for my first stamp off, just so I can have the second generation stamp. And I will ink this up. I've noticed these Stampin' spots are a little less juicy than the bigger ones, which is quite normal. So you kind of do have to work your way around the stamp a couple times just to make sure that you've gotten every piece. There's a little piece of thread here. Let me remove that. Okay, I think that should be good. So I'm just gonna stamp it off once, again, super light. And then I want this right here. I just put it down, and I'm gonna move my page because I see I'm right off the edge here. And then just press down and hold it down for a little bit so the ink can be absorbed in the page. Just move this around. Okay. Oh, I like that. That looks really good. Okay, let me move this page out of the way. Put this down. So, and then I would have this little embellishment or corner tab come out here. That looks really good. And then I'll have this popping here from the side. I really like how that looks. And then what I want to do is I definitely want to add maybe some more blending. So I was looking at these shimmer brushes, this is just in the black color, but you can just use a regular shimmer brush and just add some black ink to it and it creates the same effect. And I might just add some splatters around here just to add a little bit more intrigue to the page. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go and take a look at what title I want to use for the bottom here, just to see how big I wanted to get it. But I think I'm going to just use the Stampin' Up, just the alphabet dies, which I feel like are a great size for a lot of pages, for scrapbook pages. And then there was another set I was looking into just to maybe add a little bit more because it was a really nice summery day. I was looking into the Happy Hibiscus set because what I thought would look really pretty as well is, since I'm wearing this like white sweater with the orange bag, I thought it would be nice to do some very, very light ink blending and just have the white hibiscus with just a little bit of that orange center. So I'm going to do that. The only thing is I'm not too sure if it might take up too much of this cluster right here. So I'm just going to try one and see how that looks and if we want to add that to our cluster. So I just wanted to also quickly show, sorry for the glare here. So I wanted to quickly show the Happy Hibiscus is a hybrid folder. So this is a type of folder that you can actually apply the dies, switch this around, and it somewhat clicks into place, and then you would add your paper and just roll it through your embossing machine and it will add the texture as well as immediately cut out the shapes. The only thing I will say, because these folders are a little bit thicker than your typical embossing folders, I do tend to take out some of the levels just to have a better cut if you don't have the Stampin' Up die cutting machine. So just keep that in mind when you're using this. You might need to take out one of the levels and just add some paper just to get that perfect resistance when you're running it through. So I'm going to just add some white paper, run this through my die cutting machine, and I'll be right back with these 3 embossed / die cut shapes. Okay, I've embossed and die cut out these Happy Hibiscus set, and I've also die cut or fussy cut out a couple more of the elements that come in the embossed folder because it only cuts out 3 of the flowers, but I really like this trio of little flowers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just add a little bit of watercolor to match the orange bag that I was wearing in the picture. So I pulled out this paprika ink pad from Close to My Heart, and I'm going to push this down so some of the ink transfers in the lid, as you can see here. And first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a bit of water to the flowers. So what I'm going to do is I think a couple of these I'm going to just do a very thin layer of the paprika color all over. And then I'm just going to add a little bit to the center of the flower for just a little bit extra ink, to the center of the flower so it's a little bit more vibrant. So I'm just going to add, hang on, maybe I do a couple more of the water to the petals, but I'm not going to do too much because you don't want this to dry down. So I'm just going to put this everywhere here. Just give these two as an example. And then I'm going to take some of the ink that's in this lid and just add a little bit of water. And again, I want this like a really faint color, nothing too bright. So I might just add a little bit more water to this. There you go. And you see how because of the water that we added, it's very easy to just blend out. The paper I'm using is, by the way, watercolor paper. You can use just regular cardstock, but I've noticed that when you're doing this, it can tend to warp a little bit. So if you're doing that, I would maybe use a heat embossing tool, just like a dryer, to quickly, or even just a tissue to quickly absorb some of that extra water so it's not blending or bleeding out too much in the paper. So I'll just hold it up to the camera. So this is a very light layer of that paprika all over. I might just add a little bit more, and I'll focus on the center. You see, because of the water that we've added, how it kind of just bleeds into some of the folds. I think that looks really pretty. Add a little bit here. Okay, I think that's probably vibrant enough. We can just add like a little bit just to the center. I think that looks really nice. So I'm going to just let that dry. And I'm going to do the same thing to these cluster of the 3 little flowers. Again, this is not something that the die cuts out. So I just fussy cut this out in the embossing, from the embossing folder, because it embosses a lot more different sizes of flowers. And I really like this little cluster. So I'm just going to add this all over. You can also just blend, just ink blend. It's just going to be a bit more of an opaque color, and I wanted this watercolor look because I don't want all the attention to go to these flowers. I just want a little pop of color. But you could definitely just use an ink blending sponge and just sponge up. I would use like maybe probably a little bit of the smaller brushes, and I can just show or demonstrate how that would look, because it does give a very different look. I do like that. That's pretty. Okay, so if you would want to just use ink blending brushes, I'm just going to take this one or maybe this one as an example. So I would take probably like a smaller brush like this and then just blend it into your stamp pad. I would stamp it off, of course, depending on like what color vibrancy you want, but paprika is quite bright. And then just, I would start in the middle and then blend your way out. And you see how much more opaque that is than using the watercolor brush. So it's definitely, if you want more of this like vibrant color, you can use that too, which is really pretty. And if you just want to blend it out really softly, it creates a very pretty look as well. So that's how this looks like. What I would actually do is I would probably blend out this side just very softly with whatever's, just like the outer points with whatever's left on the brush. That looks really pretty too. That's how that looks like. And you could probably even take a smaller brush. I have one of these like mini ones just off of Amazon, and then take your ink pad. I'm going to tap it off just a little. If you would want this to be even more vibrant, you could just add a little bit more color to this inner part, or just like go and blend it out a little bit onto these thicker or higher leaves. I think that looks pretty too. Just going to go across right here. So yeah, this is, so they do look really different. Let me just blend this out a little bit better. And this does dry pretty light, the watercolor paint. So it's definitely lighter than when you initially apply it. So this is the difference. You can see it looks very different. This is definitely a lot more vibrant. You could also combine it. So once this dries, I can go ahead and show, you could definitely add a little bit of the paprika color with just a blending brush to the center to increase that a little bit more. So I'm just going to wipe off the brush right here and put this to the side. And then these brushes, you can get them off of the Stampin' Up website. You can get them off Amazon. They're just watercolor brushes, so you add water to the base here, and then you just clean them off at the end, and you can use them for all your different colors. It's really easy. Okay, so I'm gonna start assembling the page. So our photo will go here. And then this will just slide right underneath there. We'll have this coming out here. At the bottom we'll have the same thing. And I did cut out the same, using the same die, but just in a different green color to add a little bit more contrast. So I think of adding that right here, because the darker green is also coming back in these like vellum leaves. So I'll add that here. I think that looks really cool. And maybe just like a singular one up here. Might change that, but I think that does look good to just have one. I might just have this coming up more like that. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then we'll add our flowers for that pop of color. And I think I want to add, because we have this annoying green shopping bag right there, so I think I want to add it strategically, if it works, to cover that bag. I think that looks really nice. And I think I will pop this up on 3D foam just so it's a little bit higher than our embellishments we have going on here. I have another piece if we do want to add some more of that. In terms of title, I don't want to do too much, but I have this Love This Moment set from Stampin' Up, and I think I'm just going to use this happy sentiment right here and add that to the page. So let me just grab that here. And then I'm thinking in terms of color, I might just use black because of the greenery right here. I do want this to pop, so I think I'm just going to put this right here. I think that looks good. And I might just add, there's like a bunch of smaller sentiments in here, so I might just add the memories if I can find that right here. And sorry about the glare on the picture. Let me just put, I don't know if that'll help, put that over the picture just so there's no glare. So I'm going to put this really small sentiment that says memories right below there. Let me see if there's anything else. Because you can kind of add a couple of sentiments if you wanted to, but I think I like just having this right here. And then the other thing I was thinking of adding is I have the shimmer brush, which is just a black color. So I'm just going to splatter that, concentrating around the embellishment areas. So let me just grab all of this off of the page. And I don't want this on top of the, even though there seems to be some dots here too, but I'm kind of going to just cover this with a piece of paper right here. And I'm going to remove the Versamat and just do it on this because it's easy if I do make any mistakes to just rub it off. Haven't used this one yet, so probably, yeah, I still need to get this one going. So you just press down, and again, you can just use black ink. So I'm gonna get some on here. Don't want too much. And I'm just gonna use my scissors. I do like how that looks. That looks kind of cool. I think that's already enough. And then I'm just gonna use the same piece of paper down here. Gather some more of that ink. This is like kind of thicker inked, I've noticed. And the shimmer pops when you let that dry, so don't worry if you don't see anything just yet. That's maybe a little bit too much. Don't want them too thick. Okay, that's perfect. Just put that on top. Move this away, kind of slowly pick it up so you don't smudge anything. And I'm just going to take some of this paper and remove all of this. This is definitely very pigmented. Might have to use some water later. Okay, so I'm just going to let the shimmer brush splatters dry, but you can already see it when you move the page around. Don't know if you can see that, but there's if it'll, I don't know if, yeah, there you go. It has that beautiful shine to it. Okay, so I might already take my happy stamp and stamp that down. Trying to, hang on. Okay, I have my stamp on my stamp block, and I'm just going to use black. This is just close to my heart color because that's what I had. Quickly just going to move the picture in. Let me put this on top so you don't have the glare. And then see where I want that to come. And I'm just going to grab my Versamat. So I have the sticky foam for stamping. Not the sticky foam, just the foam. Grab my inked. Press this down. That looks pretty good. I think I want it like right here. Okay, I'm gonna just hold it against it for just a little bit so the ink can absorb into the paper. Since you're working with like a title word, sometimes there's just a little bit more stamp surface, so it just takes a little while before it gets absorbed into the paper, and then you get a much nicer or cleaner stamp on your paper, especially if you're just doing it like this, like straight onto your layout. See, and that looks really good. So I'm gonna wipe that off straight away because with the black you don't want to have it staining your stamp, even though this is just this is not the stain. I think the archival black one, that one really stains your stamps. This one should be fine. But and then I'm going to use the memories and do the exact same thing. Oh, that's on there crooked. Let me put it down on the line just to make sure that's straight. And I feel like I am taking a risk here because I haven't actually used these stamps before. Normally, you always should just make sure it stamps off correctly. But I'm just going to take the risk. And then I'm going to stamp that right down here. Again, just wait a little bit till it gets absorbed into the paper. That looks good. Rub that off. Okay, I like that. I was just thinking if there's anything that I wanted to add, but since this is kind of coherent, happy memories, just seeing if there's like a with you. No. Oh, happy with you, that was on here, but I think this is fine. Let me see. Let me bring in all the elements. I'm going to stick everything down and then come right back and see if we do want to add anything to the page. Okay, so the last thing is I'm going to adhere these flowers to the page, which I'm going to use some dimensionals for that. So these are just the mini dimensionals from Stampin' Up. And I'm just gonna apply a couple because I want this to stick out a little bit higher versus our cluster here. I'm gonna put that there and then that underneath. So I might actually just put that down because I want this to stick up. Okay, just a couple. Okay, you just peel off the back and then we can stick it on. Okay. I think that works. And then I'm going to just pop this one underneath a little bit. Nope, don't like that. Needs to, I think I need to do it like this. Hang on, I'm just trying to figure out what I like the best. Or if I want it to be a bit more like that. Yeah, I think that's good. I didn't put any glue on these sprigs right here because I don't mind them just being loose. I feel like it creates a little bit extra dimension. Of course, that when you stick it down or put it into your album sleeve, it will, you won't really see that this pops up. So I might just add a tiny bit of roller. I don't want to actually add glue. Put this down and I'll do the same right here. Okay, just a little bit so it sticks down and nothing slides away when I roll it into the page. So I added a little bit of the darker green as well in that same die for just a bit more extra dimension, and I added another one of the Season of Green and Gold vellum pieces. The last thing I'll do is I'll just add some of these, this is the, hang on, adhesive back dots. This came with the garden collection. I don't remember what this is called, but I'm going to take two of the green colors to just add a little bit of these clear dots. The only thing I'm wondering is if I want to put some of these flowers up on top. I think I really like this cluster, but I do want to stay within the same because I did this with the stamping and this is a watercolor. So what I might quickly do is cut this out. I still have a couple of these papers left and then add that right here. I feel like that does tie it off, or I might just do it right here because that does frame the picture really nicely. So I'm quickly going to stamp up this cluster in the same technique I did with these. So that's just a paprika, soft all around, and then a little bit darker in the center. And then I'm gonna see if I want to add that right here or right here just to balance out the orange a little bit better into the layout. Okay, so I'm gonna just add some adhesive dots to this little cluster and stick that at the top. Okay. Do that right here. That looks really nice. And then I'm gonna take the sparkly gems and just add in a couple to the clusters, because I do like that it just creates that little bit of extra sparkle. I'm going to take a larger one for there. Okay. Some of these are definitely brighter than other ones. Like, I mean, darker, I mean, than the other ones. Nope, don't like that there. Hang on. I just put it like right here, kind of like underneath this little sprig. Okay, I normally always just do 3 and I think I like that. I'm not 100% certain of this one. Let me see. I might move this one in a little bit closer to the flowers. Oops. Oh, that's a little bit too hidden. Oh, I think sometimes when you pull these off, it loses its sticky residue. So I'm just going to take another one. I can always add that later. Just going to add that in here. And then scooch this one a little bit higher. Did that. Yeah, see? Once it's like stuck down on the paper, sometimes it is hard to move these guys. And then this is the residue from the other little sticky dot. Let me take that one. Let's see how that looks. I don't know. I feel like I'm debating a lot on these little dots. I think that might be better. Okay, let's take a look. So I think that looks really good. So we added some of the black shimmer brush, and then we added the Happy Hibiscus flowers. So these are just cut out of the embossing set. You don't really have the matching die for that. These are cut out with the matching die. Then we have our ink blend or ink stamping with the Love This Moment stamp set. So that's right here at the bottom. And I feel like this just all ties in together really nicely with the green, the very soft orange, and then the black colors. And then these gems tie this out really nicely. I did move this stamp down, as you can see, just because I felt like it was kind of going lost into our cluster before. So I feel like now this just fills up the white page a little bit better. But yeah, this is the final page using the Botanical Textures paper and the fern die set, as well as the Season of Green and Gold vellum papers. I think this turned out really cool. I do feel like the paper is definitely unique, different than what I've worked with before with the black, and I feel like it just makes a picture pop with the different colors in here. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or you want to find out more, you can always visit me on my Instagram channel, which is Emma's Crafty Corner. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you for watching. Bye.